Hello, everyone. Andrew here, and I want to talk to you today about the real estate market. Are we heading for a crash? Are we going to see a dramatic price reduction happening soon? What I think is going to happen. I've been reading quite a few different articles about this and trying to kind of get a put together what several different experts are saying and kind of what the consensus is on this. But if it's your first time here, would you please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. We talk about everything real estate related, but also economy related, the federal rates, our Federal Reserve hiking the rates, inflation, things like that. Done quite a few videos on those type of things. So if you like what I'm talking about here, please subscribe to the channel. Check out some of the other videos. I'd really appreciate it. And if you could like this video and also give me some comments on what your thoughts are, I'd like to have a discussion with people about what they think is happening, because you can talk to 10 different experts and get 10 different answers on what they think is going to happen with this housing market. I'm going to go by my over 10 years of experience as a real estate agent and what I've seen with this, and when I see signs in the economy and what that's going to lead to. I'm going to refer to the area that I work in. Now, I work in a mid-sized market in a vacation area, so mine's going to be different than a large metro market, but the tips that I'm going to give you are going to be the same for all of those. And first of all, I'm going to be quoting from Forbes website, their money section, and they had an article, are we headed for a crash and what's going to happen? And with what they're predicting, and they're quoting Goldman Sachs on this, but they predict that between now and March of next year, we're going to see a 5 to 10% drop in prices. Actually, I'm sorry, between now and March of 2024, we're going to see a gradual 5 to 10% drop in prices. Now, considering the way the prices have gone up the last couple of years, it's really just a moderate correction, but prices are going to be higher than they had been, 4 or 5 years ago. And those prices, as they went up, those prices are probably here to stay. And I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why I don't see the prices coming down really anymore, because some experts predict that we could see a 20% correction in the prices. And I believe that to be true in some metro areas where people were overpricing their house, and not only was the house overpriced, but then a bidding war happened, and so people were literally paying $50,000, $100,000 over the asking price. And that's the prices. When that happened, those are the ones you're going to see the correction on, because they shouldn't have been that high to begin with. And that's something that you really need a competent real estate agent to guide you through this. Whether you're a buyer or a seller right now, there's so many different things going on, and no one can predict exactly what's going to happen. But again, the same Goldman Sachs interview thought that between now and March of 2024, you're going to see a 5 to 10% price reduction in home prices. And after March in 2024, you're going to see prices start to rise again. So while you might see a little dip coming down in the buying side of it, they're going to start going back up again, or they're going to hold their value or start going back up. The reason for that is going to be the inventory levels. I talked quite a bit about the inventory levels and why it's going to be different today than some of the housing crashes that we had in the past. People remember the housing crash in 2008, where everything just bottomed out. There were so many homes on the market, and people were unfortunately, there was a lot of foreclosures going on, and there was such a huge supply. There was so much inventory at that time, it brought the prices crashing down. I don't believe that's going to happen this time for two reasons. We've actually, since 2019, they've figured it as over a 3 million unit shortage of housing for people that are looking for houses, that want to buy a house, that can't find a house they're looking for. So we've been in this inventory shortage for quite a few years. And the building, because of the cost of materials and the cost of labor and shortages and such, the building prices are not going to come down. So you're not going to see builders building spec homes just available for sale. So that's going to keep the inventory low. The other thing that's going to keep the inventory low is people that did get this historic low rates are not going to give up those rates, because if they sell that house and go buy another house and say they got that 2.75% or 3%, they're not going to get that again. Those rates are gone. Now, currently, we've seen a little bit of a dip in the rate. We were at over 7.4 just a couple of weeks ago. And as I'm doing this right now, the interest rate was 6.75. Let me just double check what I had. 6.87 was what it was this morning that I'm doing this. This is 1st of December. And so we're seeing just a little bit of a dip, and interest rates may go up a little bit more. We don't know what's going to happen. We know the Fed is going to raise their rate. The Federal Reserve is going to raise their rate, but that doesn't always translate into a mortgage rate increase. Sometimes it does, but it doesn't always, because the mortgage demand is going lower. So banks aren't able to basically raise their rates even more because it's going to be even less for them. So people, again, are not giving up those rates that they have. So our inventory is going to stay relatively low. So I don't see this huge price reduction coming that some expert thinks are happening. And also, if you're in a market like, for say, like the market that I'm in, and how I work with my clients, especially when I'm working with the seller, um, I base my comps on the assessed value of the home and what things in the area are getting over that assessed value. And then we price the home that way. Now, what had happened, and that's a pretty good way, that's what they call a comparative market analysis. And that's a pretty accurate price on what the price should be for that home. Again, like I was mentioning, people were doing these crazy offers where if a home was 400,000, they would offer, 450,000 with an escalation clause up to 500,000, when that home never should have sold for over 400,000. So it's very important that you're talking to a competent real estate agent, whether you're a buyer or a seller, to find out what your home should be priced at. Now, if sellers were able to get that and they were able to get the financing on that, that's great for them. But there's going to be buyers that really are in an underwater situation. I actually talked about that in a previous video. So if you want to go back and check that out, what it means to be underwater when you bought a house that you basically unfortunately paid too much for. But right now, the prices should reflect what the current market conditions are. And when that gets skewed is when people are paying over the asking price. Because there's not so many buyers in the market as much, I don't believe you're going to see that happening as much. What's going to happen is we're going to get back to houses being sold for what they really should sell for. A good thing to do, again, if you're a seller or a buyer, either one, is not only have a comparative market analysis done so you see what today's prices are, but have your agent go back like 2 years ago before the prices really started going up and see again how much over assessed value houses were going for in that neighborhood at that time. That's what's going to give you a good indication of where that house is going to be, because prices did go up, and it happened more on recent sales that you're going to see where it was way over there. So make sure you get some comparables that are not only current, because an appraiser for the loan process is going to go back about 6 months on, I'm sorry, on the um, comparables are going to go back about 6 months to find out what that house is going to appraise for. But you can get a good idea if you have your agent go back about 2 years, again, seller or buyer, to get an idea of what this home is actually worth, so that everyone in the transaction doesn't feel that, they're not selling their house for enough or they're paying too much for a house. Again, very important to again have a competent real estate agent, because from what I'm seeing these prices come down a little bit, but in my particular market, again, the prices have leveled, and I think they're going to stay there. I don't see a big drop happening here. So buyers are still going to be out there, and for a buyer, remember that yes, rates are higher than we would like them to be right now. I did a whole different video on this. People, you keep hearing this, date the rate but marry the house, and why I don't really agree with that, because it's not always going to be possible to refinance a home. But just make sure the rate you're getting today is something that you can afford, that you can afford those payments, and don't be looking for or waiting for those rates to go back down to those historic lows, those 2.753%, because from what I've also done research on, when rates come down, they're probably going to come back down to that 4.5, 5.5%. So they're going to come down, and that's great for buyers. They are going to come down a little bit, but they're not going to come back down to those historic lows. Unfortunately, a few years ago, the Federal Reserve had their rate at zero. And at that time, the mortgage rates, 30-year mortgage rates, were about 2.753%. They did that to help stimulate the economy, but unfortunately, they overstimulated the economy. They should have never been down to zero in the first place. That's what brought those prices so far, or brought those mortgage rates so low. And they never should have done that. They overstimulated the economy. Now we have this problem with inflation. And in addition to, and I did another video on this as well, but a lot of this inflation is caused by just reckless government spending. that has caused this inflation. And unfortunately, because it doesn't look like our government's going to stop spending anytime soon, we're going to continue to have this inflation. And so I believe that the Federal Reserve is going to realize that um, what they're doing is not affecting inflation by raising the interest rates. Yes, you're going to cool off the market, but you're not going to affect inflation, because again, a big part of that is how much reckless spending our government is doing. So that's my take on this. If you like what you're hearing today, please subscribe to the channel. Tell me what else you'd like to know about. Like this video, put the comments down below. I really appreciate that. And I hope this helps you. Thank you.